What do we do when we hire a new employee or hire a contractor to carry out some work for us? Well, among other things, we usually want to ensure that the person has the right tools to do the job. In the world of disability, some of these tools are called accommodations, steps that help provide the tools that bolster your team, make a positive contribution to your goals and objectives, helping you and your team get past the goal line, and ultimately to achieve success. As host Melanie Taddeo explains in this Melanie Minute, the word accommodations can sometimes be confusing to people, sounding like a hotel room we might book on our trips. But here, accommodation refers to the steps and measures we take to include people to more fully mobilize everybody's contributions. Accommodations help do that, not just to include people with disabilities in the workforce, but to mobilize all of our energies. After all, who wants a company or an economy working only on partial capacity?
Good day and welcome to another Melanie Minute. When I say the word accommodation, what does that actually mean to you? Now, many of you may be thinking, oh, a place to stay. When you're on vacation, you're going to book your accommodations. Yes, that's one definition, but what I'm referring to is accommodations for people with disabilities. And accommodations basically are something that will help prevent or break down a barrier for an individual with a disability when accessing information, access to a environment, or to a program or service. So it could be an educational setting, a workplace setting, or in the community for a program, whatever it might need. And the thing about accommodations is they're individualized. So they're tailored to meet the individual's needs. There's no cookie cutter solutions. It's what works for that individual. It's also about providing dignity for that individual in all situations. And it's also about creating an equal playing ground. So level playing ground to make sure everybody has the access to what they want. And some of these accommodations come in different formats. It could be actually using equipment or a device to help implement that accommodation. Accommodation could be simple as extra time to complete a task. It could be assistive technology with screen readers, or perhaps it could be flexible work hours so that you have time to be a caregiver. So it doesn't necessarily have to always be about individuals with disabilities, but accommodations are for those individuals to make sure that everybody has that equal access. The interesting thing about accommodations is not everybody understands the fact that having accommodations is not a favor. It's not about doing people with disabilities a special thing. It's about creating equal access, that level playing ground. And there is actually a law in Ontario called Duty to Accommodate. And this is where the workplaces, educational environments, and the community have to do their very best to accommodate the individual based on their particular needs by all due means before being put into a situation that will cause hardship, financial hardship. So, for example, if it is a very, very small company and they don't have funding to renovate their entire building to make sure it is fully accessible, that is external hardship. It's outside of the realm. So that's not what they're asking. And accommodations are not necessarily expensive. And that's the other thing. As I mentioned, it could be something as flexible work hours. It could be something that gives extra time to meet quotas. It could also be as simple as adding accessible software that is free. So really, truly, everybody's accommodations is going to be unique. So we need to look at, as individuals with disabilities, what do we need as far as accommodations? Now, you can have official assessments done through organizations like CCRW, Canadian Council for Rehabilitation and Work, or external parties that go to workplaces to do workplace assessments, or you can have educational assessments done by psychologists and different things to help you identify those accommodations. But as individuals with disabilities, we're going to know what we need to be successful. For myself, I use a screen reader and Zoom text on my computer to enlarge it so I can participate fully in doing everyday things on the computer. I use a phone that talks to me so I can use a voice to text option, as well as to hear text messages, emails, and the phone calls coming in. Those are some of the accommodations I personally like to use, but also I only have use of one hand, so I type slower. Sometimes I need to ask for extra time to complete certain tasks. I also have a large print keyboard that helps me with my computer. I also know that sometimes my voice texting can cause typos. So sometimes perhaps I may get an app or something that will do a spell check automatically put on my computer. A lot of these things don't cost money. It's just a matter of putting it in place. And as an individual with disabilities, yes, we need to advocate for what we need, but we also have to educate and inform others about what it is we need. So in a workplace, that would be our HR department. We'd let people know. In a school, that would be disability accessibility center at a college or university, or if it's an elementary school, it will be part of your individualized education plan, and that follows you through school. Ensuring that everybody understands what it is we require will help make the transition and understanding it a little bit better. Now, there are some things that happen when it comes to accommodations, especially if it's specialized equipment in a workplace. You may get people coming over and wanting to know what it is you're doing. I remember when I was working in one workplace, I had a CCTV, closed circuit television that would help enlarge paper documents for me to read. And I also had a large screen with my Zoom text, and people were curious about it and they came over. So we don't want to be that token person that's putting on a sideshow, but it is important to share with people this is my equipment and this is why I use it. And that's it, it's done. And then it's a non issue going forward. Having these conversations with the right appropriate person will help also ensure that your plan at work and at school goes smoothly. So there's not going to be expectations on you that are just not feasible, that you can't be successful. And that dialogue needs to be continuously happening because accommodations may evolve as time goes on. Perhaps you become more comfortable with a certain task and you don't require the accommodation anymore, or perhaps something has changed in your life that you do require an accommodation. So they have to be flexible. The story I want to share with you is I've been working with a community partner for a number of years and in a supervisory role for others that involves paperwork. And I explained to them that it is difficult for me to see where I need to sign on a piece of paper. And my writing is horrendous, I'll be honest. Is it possible that I could use a digital signature where I can have somebody assist me know where to place it and just add in my electronic signature? And this was fine, no problem, Melanie. We completely understand. This will be fully accepted in our organization. Fantastic. Well, I encountered somebody, new staff member, that came on board and said, nope, this is not acceptable, without asking any questions of why it was implemented, and said they wouldn't accept it for this individual. And I was flabbergasted. This new staff member didn't ask me at all why, or anybody else on the staff, why this was implemented and is it okay. Just said, no, it's not acceptable. And that was it. It took a very stern email that I wrote to the individual, including other members from the organization, to inform her that I am legally blind and this was an accessibility accommodation that was put in place years ago by the organization and it is accepted. And I'm not quite sure why you're having an issue with this. Can you please explain? And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. But at the end of the day, I told her this was something I was not going to change because this is what I need. And that's the thing. The individual with a disability is the one that chooses what accommodations they require. It's not about the company. It's not about the educational institution. It's not about the community organization. We don't get to pick and choose what we feel somebody else needs. It's the individual. We're trying to help support that and implement it. So after this experience, it was an educating moment for that individual, but I also was able to advocate for myself. And that's something that's really important when we do require accommodations. So what can we do to ensure that everybody has what they need to be successful? Well, first of all, we need to have these conversations. We need to be talking about what accommodations are and that it's not a privilege, but in fact a right for people to have equal access to accomplish the same task that others without disabilities do. It doesn't make us special, it just makes us have the tools that we require to complete the same tasks so that we can feel included and part of the team, part of contributing members, and feel a part of making a difference in our communities, our workplaces, and in schools. So, as an individual without a disability, how can you assist? Well, understand what accommodations are and that they are individualized, that it is about dignity, it's about ensuring we're breaking down and preventing barriers to move forward. If you are in a workplace where accommodations are part of it, that's great. If you're not, perhaps you can help educate the organization or company to understand why. And of course, be a supporter. Help ensure that these accommodations are being met in different scenarios. Again, you've heard me say before, how can I best support you is an amazing statement. It's not just for people with disabilities, but anybody that may require assistance. But again, this conversation is something that evolves over time. And I just thought I would share today as it was on my mind this week. Until next time, have a great day.
You have been listening to Connect for Life, the podcast. Connect for Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connectforlife.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.